Welcome back to ThriveIN Wabash County. On this episode, I am joined by fellow Adam Hall of the Wabash City Parks Department. Welcome to the studio, Adam.
Hello, thanks for the invite.
Adam, I always go into these episodes, I do a little bit of research, whether it's about the guest or it's about the topic. And in your situation, it's going to be about City Parks Department. But I found something that it was really interesting to me is that you worked for Wabash City Parks while you were in college. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely.
Where were you going to college at the time?
So I went to Franklin for 1 year and then transferred, went to Manchester for the rest of the time, and then worked at the park through all of that.
And just as like general labor?
Yeah, just summer help. Graduated high school at Wabash and needed to find a job. Went to Mr. Van Laningham, who was the mayor at the time. I said, I just need you as a reference. And he goes, here's an application. Got a phone call from Todd Titus that night. Said I just needed to fill in a place, come interview, and I've been here for over 19 years now.
All right. So you're at Manchester and you spend time under Todd, just working general labor.
Mm-hmm.
What was your degree in at school?
So I went to be an educator. I wanted to be a teacher, a history teacher, more specifically. And so trying to find what to do after that, I graduated from Manchester. Couldn't find a full-time job right away. Wanted to stay close to home. So continued to work for Todd. And then I would substitute until I took over a couple of maternity leaves. And then finally Mr. Vale left and a spot came open. So I got to take that position for about 2.5 years. And then first child came on the way, decided I didn't want to work at the park anymore. And then Todd goes, I'm retiring. You should apply. And I said, okay. So that gives me two options. Either I stay teaching or I apply. The worst they can say is yes. If it's no, I'm a teacher. That's easy enough. Mayor Long gave me the phone call, said, I would like for you to be my park superintendent. And I've done this now 10 years.
So as park superintendent, is that an appointed position by the mayor, or how does that work?
Yep. So it's appointed. So as a department head, the mayor comes in and decides who he wants to run each department. And so I have been under Mayor Long now. And so at some point, if he doesn't run again, the new mayor can appoint me and then has to take me to the park board as a recommendation. So my department's a little different because we also have a park board. Mm-hmm. And so I also kind of answer to them and work with them. So it's kind of a check and balance with them, okay. Which is kind of weird to say a park has its own board as well.
And I've got that in kind of my notes. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to talk about that board a little bit later in the conversation. So from your perspective, how is that knowing that kind of not at any time, but when there's a change in mayor at some point, that could result in you losing your position?
Mm-hmm. So it always is in the forefront. The first election afterwards, when the mayor ran, it's like, will I still have a job after these 4 years? And so there is kind of a safety net. If there's ever an opening within the city because of that, it's kind of like a opportunity that I could apply for it. Doesn't mean I get to it, but I can at least apply for it. But before even getting to that, I've always just figured if I'm doing my job well, there's no reason why I shouldn't be here. So that's why I've always just taken what I've done so seriously, and it is important to me. So, hopefully people see that, especially if there's a new mayor that will come down the road and be like, well, he's doing a good job. We might as well just keep him.
Sure. So when you were, I'm just going to say general laborer, mm-hmm. When you were in college, how many of those kind of seasonal help employees do you manage throughout the year?
So usually there is about 8 to 9 summer kids, okay. And that's what we still hire today. It got to be where I had my own set of keys. I knew what I was doing. I would start opening up on the weekends so Todd and the foreman could have their time off. So I got to know a lot of people, especially because they're there for about 2 to 3. I was the odd man out, it seemed like. It's like, well, Adam's back again.
So, and then do you have any full-time employees that work under you as well?
Yep. So we have 2 other full-time employees. I have a foreman, and then I just have a full-time laborer.
And the summer help, I'm assuming it's all summer, or do you have additional winter help?
Nope. So we have seasonal, which would be then our 2 mower drivers. So they start earlier and then go until about the fall. They're mowing 4 days a week, and it's one spot every day. Mondays are here, Tuesdays are here, and then they're off on Fridays. But they are very skilled people. Somebody retired from the school as a janitor, has a lot of skills. Then when we have a problem with the bathroom or it comes to other constructional things, he can weld. He is that jack of all trade.
When you talk about mowing, just mowing, you've got 2 guys that are out there 4 days a week, and they're nonstop. How many parks and how many acres do the Wabash City Park take up here?
So we have 9 official parks.
Okay.
There's a couple more places we take care of, but they're not parks on the GIS. And then we have about 4 miles worth of trails. So in total, we have 70 acres that we maintain. The city park being 35 of those, and then Paradise Springs, Southside, Hannah, the pool. Those are the other spots. So they're bouncing around all over town, really.
So you mentioned the Wabash City Park, or what I would call the City Park on Hill Street, the largest park of all of ours. There's a newer playground equipment that was installed in the last couple of years. Big pavilion, Wabash City cross country runs there. There's the softball diamond. You guys maintain all of that?
Yep, we maintain all of that. We have a disc golf course that's through there, all 18 holes. We have a great disc golf league that helps maintain a lot of that. They've raised funds to improve the equipment, so they're really good to work with, and it's another draw to the park. So the more people we can get, the better. And so, yeah, that is a park that has a lot of different variety.
Yeah, including some basketball, I believe, down in kind of that lower area.
Just drove those today. That is so old. That used to be a racetrack.
Oh, really?
So a lot of the history of the park, it was originally the fairgrounds host site for all the horses. So then that's where they'd have the stables. And then if you go up top and it kind of knows how that's an oval, that used to be a bike racetrack.
Okay, so when we do these episodes, I love for our listeners to like find little nuggets of information, because whether they text us or email us or they just see us out, grocery shopping, I didn't know XYZ about, Cordis Berry Farm. Well, you just blew my mind about that city park. I had no idea that that's the history there.
Yeah. And so talking about those basketball courts, again, if you go through that drive, there is a limestone corner piece, and that is supposed to be the remainder of it was a pig slaughterhouse. And so it had thousands upon thousands when it was at its peak, and then burnt down one year.
Okay.
But that cornerstone is still there as you round the corner to go to those basketball courts.
That's really cool. Now, you mentioned earlier the Paradise Spring. That is maintained by the city parks. Is it owned by the city parks as well?
Yeah, so Paradise Springs is owned by the city. City got the land and then worked with the Paradise Spring Board once it became an actual park. There was a group of people that wanted it to be like it used to be, with the cabins, kind of creating that reenactment of what is originally there. And so we collaborate with the Paradise Spring Board really well. They maintain the cabins, then they do have events. They are planning their 200-year tree signing this coming fall, actually. So that'll be a fun reenactment. That's in the week right after Chili Cook-Off. So it's going to be a busy couple of weeks there.
That area down there, it stays busy a lot throughout the year. You've got Christmas lights that go up now. You mentioned Chili Cook-Off. There's been some car shows down there, reenactments. I mean, seems like there's always stuff going on down there.
There is. It's really nice place, very open. Anybody and everybody can figure out something to do there. We have walking Wednesdays through the health department. We used to have March of Dimes. We've had the tractor show. I mean, it's just a place to host something.
River Cleanup, which was a past guest on this podcast, they use that as kind of their start and finish for all their volunteers. Really nice bathrooms down there and easy access to the river trail as well. So, and parking at kind of 2 locations at Paradise Spring.
Yeah, and that's another place that has just so much history to it, being an old railroad hub. And then we've had people that have spoken about that. You can still walk through the grass and find the old turntables of where the locomotives and the trains would be. So again, there's just so much history sitting right there.
Yeah, I'm really glad that at least, if the roundhouse wasn't preserved, at least the ground is, and you can still see some of that, the remnants of that. So going from an old park to some of our newest and most newly renovated would be the park over near Wabash High School where the pool's at, and you've got a brand new expansion of some pickleball and tennis courts going in.
Yep. So we originally had just 4 tennis courts. was able to get some opportunities with the community and some funds found to where we could tear those down and then put 4 new in, including 6 pickleball. From what I've been told, there's about a group of 70 people that are very pickleball oriented. I've only played it twice and loved it with my kids. So I'm looking forward to trying this, but it's going to also be now lit. We don't have like the normal lighting. We actually have it just along the fence line. So it's not going to be as invasive around the neighborhood, but lit up all year round, or summer round, I should say, and fall around. We probably will take out the nets in the wintertime to kind of preserve that. Before it was there, and if people wanted to use it, but we're getting smarter on how to take care of our equipment.
Yeah. Pickleball, I've never played. I want to at some point. I just haven't had the opportunity. But I'm at the YMCA, walk around the track. There are always people playing indoor pickleball, and I'm assuming that most of them are going to be super excited to be able to get outdoors and play at those new courts when summer rolls around. Will those be ready in 2026 for the summer?
Yes. Now it is waiting for the weather to get to where we can put the surface down.
Okay.
We just couldn't get it done at this fall. We tried. We wanted it to, a couple of delays, but that's the only thing remaining is now just putting that top surface on.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned that you maintain some trails as well. Where are those trails at in the city?
So we have the Riverwalk that's along Smith Street, starting by the RV park, and then that goes into Paradise Spring. And then we have, from Paradise Spring, we also have the OJ Trail. That is between the school and the Field of Dreams.
Okay.
And that one is kind of unique because, it is one of those, when they created it, it was kind of a set and forget. Like, they wanted it to be in nature, which is great until nature wants to take over. So when we started going in there for the 4th of July, a lot of people will park and walk to the Field of Dreams for walking the fireworks. I'm like, you can hardly get through here with the brush. So for the last couple of years, we've really went through, knocked it off. We have a yearly cleanup with Edward Jones that'll come and help cut and clean up for a day. So there's a lot of community involvement when it comes to trails specifically.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the park board that kind of oversees some of the work that gets done. Explain to me how that works in conjunction with your responsibilities and then the mayor's oversight.
So it is not convoluted, but there's just a lot of checks and balances of going through what I see and what should be done with the park. Then it typically will go to, I'll mention it to the mayor, say, we really need to look into this new playground. For example, the new playground at the city park. We knew it needed updated. So we go to the mayor and say, Mayor, at a budget meeting, I want to look into updating this park. He goes, okay, we'll update it. Let's go now to the park board. Same thing. Board, here's what it looks like. Here's what we can create it. Here's our budget. And then they kind of help go through those processes as well. So using a company, they'll kind of be, if anything needs to be signed or approved, it goes to the park board then. Doesn't have to go to council, doesn't have to go to Board of Works. So kind of very narrow trajectory. Once it begins, it kind of starts broad with the mayor, the council, myself, and the board. And then as it gets more and more focused, it just kind of sticks with us in the park board.
Okay. And the park board, how are they elected officials? Are they volunteers? Are they appointed? How does that work?
So we have 6 members. 4 are appointed by the mayor. And then we have 2, one from the school board and one from the library board.
Okay.
And they're all voting members. We haven't had any ties yet, thankfully, because it's not common to have an even number board typically. We only have to have one school or one library. We've always had both because, again, there's a lot of collaboration. And with those 2, the school and the library, they have a lot of knowledge that it seems like are very helpful for parks. Yeah. And this is all through the state. Like, this is state requirements. So it's not like we made up what the board should look like. We have guidelines that we must follow.
What's a misconception that a lot of citizens have about the city parks?
One thing, especially as a kid, and you hear it a lot, it's dirty. It's not safe. We are out there every day. We don't see everything, but we are rounds every day. We pick up trash. We make sure that things are as safe as can be. We're fairly friendly. We'll wave, we'll say hi. We have our regulars that we see on the trail every day. We know them by name. They know us by name. They will call us even if they see stuff because we don't get to see it all, but they do. Mm-hmm. Those that walk every day know if something's not right. So those are the helpful people that, guide us and make the parks better for us. But that is a big misconception nowadays, that the parks just aren't as fun. They're not as safe. They're not as clean. But to me, they are. I've always enjoyed the parks, and I will take my kids there. Sometimes they want to go, and I've been here all day. I don't want to go to the park because we'll go get Kelly's ice cream. It's like, well, can we go through the park? I'm like, yeah. So I always have to remember to do that as well.
I live on Hill Street, and when my boys were younger, and I mean now my youngest is getting ready to graduate from high school, and
excellent.
My oldest graduated a few years ago. But when they were young, I mean we were 5 blocks or 6 blocks from the city park, and every day after school, that's where they wanted to go, and we just walk down there, ride our bikes down there, and I mean they could spend hours on monkey bars, teeter totters, slides. So it is a great asset for our community and for our residents. And I haven't taken advantage of the new equipment down there because I don't have kids, but what an addition to the city park. The money that went into that, and then the work and the effort that your team put in. Mm-hmm. You've got safe material now that's down as the bed, I guess, mm-hmm. for the equipment, new slides, new swings. It looks fantastic. So, congratulations on a job well done there.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a long time coming. Myself and my foreman, Sam Hipskin, we became certified playground safety inspectors because we wanted to make sure what we were getting was safe for the community. And so, like you said, we have a whole new surface. This is the first playground where it is an artificial turf. Everywhere else has been mulch. And mulch is okay, but we've had kids the last 2 days have played on that playground because it's not muddy. Mm-hmm. Mulch is muddy when it's wet, and so people wouldn't play. We've had so many kids the last 2 days because school cancellation yesterday, and then right after school today, they are at the playground. The one funny thing was, as we were taking out the old, putting in the new, and people were asking questions, they continued to ask about the old things that we had when we were younger. They wanted to see the big slide that was at the bottom of the hill. They wanted to see the slide that's from the hill down to the bottom. And as fun as those are, after learning what the safety protocols are for playgrounds now, it's like we just can't have those. And I understand why we don't now, but it took me learning mm-hmm. that because I wanted the same stuff. I still like those things, but there's so many rules and guidelines to make it safe for everybody, and that's the ultimate goal. But we missed the things we had as a kid.
Absolutely. Those metal slides that would just toast the back of your legs in the middle of summer, or probably were a little too steep. Mm-hmm. Liability issues. I mean, we've got to protect. When I say the city, I also mean the taxpayer. Mm-hmm. And so we do. We have to take those into consideration. And kudos to you and Sam for becoming safety inspectors and knowing what could be put in there safely. One of the more unique properties that we have here in Wabash, and one of the fairly new programs, is the all-inclusive playground that's next to the YMCA. Do you have some ownership of that, or how does that park work?
Yes, so the Friendship Hill Inclusive Playground was basically just in its infancy when I started. Todd made sure I got put on that board when it was getting designed. Again, very fresh, very new, so I didn't know everything I wish I would know now, but worked with a group of individuals that were very passionate about what they wanted to see as an inclusive playground. Had different people with all skill sets. We had people of therapy. We had families with disabled, family members giving us perspective of what they need for their families. And so it's on park property. It's a city park playground. So a lot of people say it's the Y playground. It's not. It's still the city's. It's just right there. It's very easy for a lot of people to describe that. But that is now over almost 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't realize how old it was until we did 1,000 Days of Play. We did a fundraiser. And so after the 1,000 Days of Play, so it was, 3 years since we put it in, it was like, man, this is that old already. But it's still very much utilized. It's got a lot of different aspects and a lot of other features that any other playground we have doesn't have. Mm-hmm. The hill was not there originally. We wanted that for people to walk, enjoy, roll down, use it as a play feature. And that was a really fun concept.
And that is another one of those programs that we talk about here on this program a lot, that the community came in, they saw a need, there was a passionate group of people that poured their heart and soul into that program, and then went out to the community and said, we need your assistance. And the community opened up and gave their time and money, just like so many other things that have happened around this community. And so that playground is utilized all the time. We're recording this in mid-February, but I left the Y the other day, and it's one of those first warm days, 55, 60 degrees outside, and that place was absolutely packed.
It is.
Like you said, it's that artificial surface, so parents don't have to worry about their kids getting all muddy and everything else. Kids were just having a blast out there.
Yes, I will agree with you. This community is amazing when it comes to working together. That was the first time I was a part of a patronicity campaign, which is a grassroots, people funding projects, like your whole community. I just completed one. I used it for the playground at the city park, and I just did another one for Broadmoor Park, which is a very small pocket park. It's between literally the backyards of people's places. Not a lot of people know where it's at, but we wanted to turn that little grass area into a walking garden. So we sent it out to the community saying, we need to raise $20,000. If we do, we get in a match of another $20,000. And, the money just kept coming. And it's $100, it's $50, it's $20. Like, that's what we want, because we want everybody in the community to feel the ownership that they do have. And so it's really nice to do those types of fundraisers, because I'm not a person that likes to go find money, but this one makes me connect to the community. So I like to do that type of fundraising.
Broadmoor Park, I know where you're talking about. Well, that's kind of between Wabash Street and Manchester Avenue, kind of.
Yep.
In north of, what's the main thoroughfare right through there? Harrison.
Yep. So just east of the fire station.
That's right.
Yep. So if you can find Gladstone or Broadmoor, you'll drive by it. You might miss it too, because it is just grass.
And it kind of sits down a little bit of a valley there along the creek. There's a pavilion back there, I believe.
Yep.
Is that Charlie Creek that kind of runs through there?
Yep. So Charlie Creek cuts it. So it's in a floodplain, which then really limits what we could even do there. We couldn't really build any structures. We couldn't really put a playground anymore, but we can do a sidewalk and we can do gardens. And so there's the Master Garden classes that have been going up a lot with the Purdue Extension and everything. They came to me and said, we want to have kind of our own place again. And it worked out perfectly to find this site, found the funds, got a large grant from Duke Energy, and said, this is what we want to do with it. So a lot of the green thumbs, because I do not have a green thumb. As much as I am about parks, I'm not necessarily a green thumb person. I love being outside. I just can't make things grow. So we said, if we can get this site, can you help us make it? And so far, we've been meeting once a month. We're getting the plans figured out now to start hopefully planning in the next couple of weeks or a couple months maybe.
I'm looking forward to seeing that come to life and having a new walking path in town. From an economic standpoint, our city parks, they don't necessarily generate income for the city, but they are a vital part in bringing people here. And when we talk about the chili cook-off, it plays host to the chili cook-off, which has poured tremendous amount of funds back into our community, or for other fundraisers, or, like I said, clean up the river. Talk about the impact that having quality green space has in our community.
Yeah, you see it through the state, through the country. Parks are a big reason why people want to come to a town. It's just not said a lot. You see it through the data. You see it where they spend. The ability to now kind of follow where people have gone throughout a town has really shown us that people like the parks. People like our parks. They like Paradise. They like the main park. We have people coming from different counties to go to just to the inclusive. They didn't go anywhere else, but they wanted to see that playground. So we don't charge anything, but we are enriching the community by getting people here to spend in other spots. If you're downtown, hopefully you're shopping downtown. If you go to the city park, hopefully you go to Kelly's Ice Cream and take an ice cream with you. If you walk the river, hopefully you're going through White Rock or Alley Cat to, stop and at least go inside, because that's what I do. You go to a different county, you find a cool building, you go see what it's about. Yep. And so as we keep looking at our funds in projects, we kind of have to start saying what amenity will help the community bring people into it. So we can say we want a park. Okay, what's that going to do? It's going to bring people. We want a new pavilion. Okay, how is that going to, again, draw people in here? If it's the large pavilion like we have at the city park, we have businesses and we have all kinds of organizations that come because it's such a big pavilion that you can get out of the elements. But it's what amenities kind of now benefit the whole community, not just the park, but the whole community.
You're right. When we look at a Fishers or a Carmel, or if you go out to, say, Colorado, Boulder area, it's been proven that the trails and the open green spaces, even Central Park in New York City, that green space, trails, people are looking for that. And especially as we look at a younger generation who may not be going to a factory job, they may be working remotely, and they're looking for quality of life, cost of living, what can I give to my family? They're looking for those things. Where can we go out and have fun? And we've got the reservoirs here, it's similar to a park, but just on a little bit grander scale. But on a day-to-day, they know that they can go down to the city park, or they got the skate park, or the all-inclusive. Those matter. They matter for us trying to retain new people, but also to keep our residents that we have right here and provide them with outdoor activities and opportunities.
Yeah. And so we also take care of the Honeywell pool in the summertime. And so talking to those people, we have people that come from Rochester, Peru, Marion. We've had them come from Cass County. I mean, they're coming to our pool. Like, you have pools. So we ask, what makes ours so much, special? What's our uniqueness about it? And one, it's one of few outdoor Olympic-sized pools now. We keep it clean. We have managers that are amazing that keep, they like the atmosphere. And that's the big thing when you go to the pool, you want the atmosphere too. So, we have it open for 10 weeks, and it's like, what can we do for 10 weeks? So they're always playing music. The lifeguards are having fun. They're out there, interacting with people. When they're in the chairs, they're doing their job. When they're out of the chairs, they're still on the deck. They're swimming when it's their breaks and splashing, the kids and cannonball. The adult swim kids hate, but they like when the lifeguards are doing fun stuff off the diving board. So that's another unique thing that we get not a lot of, but it does bring people into town.
Sure. And it also is a nice host place for baseball teams or leagues. Part of my team, Triumph, and we rented that out last year to do just kind of open swim, so that we're not in a competition mode. We're not going to triathlons, but we can get the boats out. We brought new athletes in to say, hey, here's what we do, show them what we do. And the city pool was a fantastic place to do that.
Yeah, it's very fun. The fire department uses it for safety rescues in the mornings. They are out there with their diving gear on, and then by 1 o'clock, we open the doors because nobody else is in there. So it's very good for different aspects of the community. Fire department has used it. DNR has used it. We have the duck derby for the junior achievements that will do 1,000 ducks come down that slide as in a race. And then that's helping create some funds for their organization. So for as little time we have it, a lot of people like to use it.
And it's not cheap to operate a pool.
No.
But it is an amenity that is worth keeping in our community for our youth, so they have a place to go and during the summer and have some fun. In addition to that, I'm sure lifeguards are much needed.
Yes.
If you're a parent listening to this podcast, or if you're a youth listening to this podcast and you're, where do I send my kid to get a summer job?
Lifeguard.
Lifeguard's
awesome. You can get certified and you can go anywhere. Even if we, once we're done, the Y looks for lifeguards. Marion needs there's all the different organizations. And then with those skills, those are life skills. You learn CPR, you learn rescue, like those things that stick with you. I have had a couple of people that have become teachers. They liked the rescue portion. They need it as a teacher anyway, so it was easy for them. But you come and you be a lifeguard, you get a tan, you have, a good time playing in the water, and then, hopefully you're back again next year.
Yeah.
But that is a not easy thing to get. It's getting harder. We've looked into what it's required from the Red Cross. It's only a 2-year license and you got to renew it. So it's a lot of work, but it's well worth it, I think, especially with our guards. I think they enjoy it. Works well with schedule sometimes because you have athletes that are in the morning, then you go work at the pool after that. So we have cross-country kids that work, running in the park and then they go run to the pool, and then they're at work.
And you're not working super late at night, so your evenings are freed up to go hang with friends or do whatever you want to do.
Yep.
I want to switch things up here a little bit, Adam, and I want to talk about some of like your favorite parks or assets that we have in the community in the parks that maybe other people aren't familiar with.
So I am partial to history still. I still a teacher at heart. The summer kids are my students now. So Paradise Spring, very close to me with all that history of it being the site for the treaty signing, then the railroad. So I really enjoy Paradise Spring. Same thing with the city park, oldest park that we have in town. Again, the fairgrounds and how it was created, just a lot of rich history. I'm very fortunate because Mr. Woodward was my history teacher for half a year. I got him for half a year and then he had to leave, but I wanted to kind of follow his footsteps and share the wealth of knowledge he has. So I asked him a couple of years ago to just give me a couple sites that are important to us through the parks. I want to do a trolley tour. He ended up helping sponsor it, made sure kids that wanted to come could get on there. So using those resources and finding those sites, again, make it very interesting to me. So another history thing is Hannah Park. Out towards Hill Street, heading towards LeGros, is the site of the first cemetery for the city of Wabash. Again, not one that you go by and notice. And it was created by Hugh Hannah. It was, his remains were there. They had to get rid of all of those and then moved them to Falls. At least they got what they could. It's not like it was today. So, you look at the playground now, or we're going through and we're mowing. It's just like, this was a cemetery. That is very not normal now to think about. But that was one of our stops on that trolley tour because that's very important to our history that we can lose if we don't recall.
Mm-hmm. That the history part is something that I would say probably not most people, they don't think of history when they think of parks. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool aspect that you have towards our parks. And it's something we're blessed with Paradise Spring, and then knowing now that park was a cemetery.
Yep. And then just all the history. He gave me pages upon pages for the city park alone. So to go through everything was like I had a nitpick of what I wanted, or this trolley tour was going to be 3 hours long. He gave different examples of Chautauquas, which I had to learn what a Chautauqua was, which is basically like a gathering. They just had week events of church sermons, science projects. Like it was basically let's just together and just do whatever we want to do as a community. They did dances with those. Talked about the railroad being there, and there's like a hobo cave even where they used to live, and it's just like the history of what was it? They didn't want the hobos to come off anymore, so they had a police officer sit there with his gun just to deter them from jumping off, and it's just like, okay, sure. And so then it's like, well, now I got to go find this cave, and there is it's a culvert, but yeah, I can see how it's a cave. Yep. And so it's just like, man, that's just so interesting.
Thanks for bringing up Mr. Woodward. That he is such a gem and a wealth of knowledge about Wabash County. So much so that Christine Floor and Mr. Woodward have now created the Woodward Chronicles. It's a monthly podcast where Mr. Woodward just shares knowledge about whatever topic is on his mind. So if you haven't listened to that yet, you can find that also on all the platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I had heard that he has it. I haven't found it yet, but it is on my to-find list.
Yeah, he's fantastic on there. Earlier, we were talking about the park board. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that, like most organizations, they have to meet on a monthly basis. Do you have any information on if people are curious about the happenings of the board and what's happening? Are they able to go to those public meetings, or how does that work?
Oh, yeah. So open public, just like City Council, Board of Works. We meet second Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. at City Hall. We now record it. They now get posted wherever they post all the others on YouTube. Yep. They post those on YouTube, so you can watch it. They're not the most riveting usually, but it helps the community stay interested and notified of what we are doing. About every month for the last 7 months, I've updated about the tennis courts and Broadmoor. And so we actually just had probably the biggest crowd last week, actually, at our February meeting. We partnered with the city schools, and they have a group called the PCAP class now. All freshmen, about 15 of them. And for their project, they were to pick a site out of 4 options throughout the parks to create a mural that they would create. They had their 15 kids present. We took the last 4, the top 4, and actually presented at the park board. And I mean, the pews were full. It was really nice to see people interested in the parks. Even the murals themselves were amazing. If I could paint every one of them, I would, because we picked the train trestle going to LaGrow was a spot. The Ferry Street Bridge was a spot. There's a wall at the pool that was a spot. And then there was the Riverwalk itself. We have a mural on the left side of the Wabash Street Bridge. They were looking at the other side that's blank to see. And I will say, as freshmen students, they were creating some amazing things.
So is that something that we can expect to see in the summer of 2026?
The next thing is now goes back to the class. If they can find the funds, if they can find the people to help, I think it is doable. I would like to see it done. I think it's something that, again, murals are another thing that attract people to our community, that beautify the place and actually kind of protects it. You don't see a lot of murals that just get vandalized. Mm-hmm. You see a wall get vandalized, but as soon as it gets painted on, there's something unique's on there, it's there.
The sewage water treatment plant is a great example of a mural that's really had an impact. So many people went back and forth along there, whether they're driving or on the river trail. It just changed the entire scape over there.
It does. It doesn't make it look like a concrete wall anymore. Yeah. It makes it look like a facility that people want to actually be at. Yeah. And it's a sewage plant. So it's like, why would I want to be here? But this looks really cool.
Yeah. A piece of art. It really is.
So what is your favorite park? What is your favorite amenity?
Oh, man, that's a great question. And it's probably changed over the years as I've had kids and now they're grown. The proximity and the walkability of the Wabash City Park, and that park, the landscape is so diverse. I mean, we talked about all the amenities that are there, but because of the big hills where you could sled in the wintertime,
oh yeah.
But also when I was training for endurance events, I would use that hill as my training ground.
Yeah.
And so I may be going out west to a mountain. Well, that's about the nearest thing we've got to a mountain in Wabash. And so I would use it. But I would say now that portion of trail that you mentioned between OJ Neighbors and Field of Dreams is just a hidden little section in Wabash that, I mean, there's a lot of people that probably don't realize that even exists. But when you get back in there, it's like the city disappears. You don't hear the noises of 24 or any other street. And like you said, you've maintained it, but it's very much like you're in nature.
Yeah.
And I really like that section of trail.
You go to other places and you see off-beaten trails, and we are seeing people kind of create those. And it's like, that's what I want. Go explore. Yes, there's a path. Make yourself a path as well. Just come back and enjoy it. It's really, I don't even know when it was built now. I'm trying to think of, I think Copeland might have been mayor when that was created. Okay. I still talk to Todd Titus a lot. He's on BoardWorks, but I always ask him questions. Him and Doug Lehman seem like they know anything and everything when it comes to the city. So those are 2 good references that I like to use.
That's true. The other one is, and I don't know if this is technically part of the city park, but kind of on the north side of the city park, you go underneath the train trestle and there's waterfall back there. That also is kind of a hidden little gem that you have to know where that's at or else you just drive right past it.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that because that is another one of my favorite spots as well. So it's got a waterfall. It's an old limestone quarry, but you're absolutely right. You can drive right past that and not notice. And we get about 5 people a summer that'll come up and say, we're looking for the waterfall. And it's like, all right, I'll show you. We actually just redid the sign to help make it stand out more, hopefully point it that way. But that's another one that's, if you just want to go hear some water, that's a place to stop at. I really like that park a lot.
Yeah. If Adam's dreaming and you kind of, let's say you have kind of an unlimited budget.
Yeah.
What are you doing in Wabash with our city parks?
Oh man, that's a tough one. If it's unlimited, it's not so much keeping up with the Joneses. I don't need the modern now. I just want to update what we have to make everything interesting for the people. I would love to redo all our pavilions, not add to them, but just update them, give them the electricity, make them more accessible, make them more stand out, unique. because what we have, we want you to go to different places. We don't want every park to have the same thing. There are spots where you want the green space. You want to have the training facilities for a hill. We don't need a playground on that either. And that's another thing that a lot of people ask, and I'll ask you, what is a park? When I say describe a park to me, give me 3 things that a park you need for a park.
That's hard. That's really hard.
It is.
Because I think of my son spends a lot of time at the skate park.
Okay.
Right? That's a park. It's surrounded by grass,
right.
but the skate park itself is all concrete.
Yes.
So green isn't necessarily needed to make a park. That's all hard surface.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really interesting concept to think of it like that.
Yeah. And so when somebody says, well, your park's not good enough, I said, it's not good enough for you, because do you need a playground? Do you need green space? Do you need a path to walk? Do you just need a trail? So there are a lot of variables that make a park a park. It is not defined very, specifically. It's meant to be broad. And so that's another thing that's kind of fun to educate people on. It's like, well, your park's just not. I said, it's just not for you. But what about this park? Once we kind of talk, it's like, well, we want the skate park. Okay, that's great. Here's this skate park for you. We want a place to walk. Okay, here's the river walk. We want a place for our kids to play. Okay, here are the inclusive, the city park, Hannah. Those all have playgrounds. Me personally, I like to take my kids to Hannah because one, I'm not there as often and it's not as used. It's one of those kind of off to the side ones. So to me, I want to go give that attention. I'll go take my kids there. But then we still see a lot of people that like to play there. It's just not one I have to see all the time because my office is at the main park. So it's like, I always see this playground.
Yeah. And Hannah it's a small little lot, but green space. It's got the playground for kids. It's got a pavilion and also has basketball.
Yep.
So, I mean, it has a lot going on in a small area, and that's all in a residential area as well. So a lot of people can just walk right there.
Yep. And that's another thing that we have to do master plans. We do every 5 years, we do what we call a master plan. That gets submitted to DNR and to the state. It kind of helps us guide us through grants. Certain grants require master plans. And what that does is it lets the community give their input on what they would like to see for the parks. Very helpful. We have a lot of interviews with stakeholders. They will send out flyers. We probably have to do one another 2 years maybe. So if you ever get one, please let us know what you want, because that's what guides us. But those are the things that we want to see, because I'm more worried about Wabash's community than any other community. So again, I'm not keeping up with the Joneses. I'm keeping up with Wabash.
I'm glad you brought up maintenance a couple of times now. It's ongoing between the fight with nature, which we want to live within nature, but also nature's always trying to take over.
Yeah.
And then just equipment breaking down, whether that's mowers or playground equipment or whatnot. I can't imagine the amount of upkeep and just it's every single day knowing you're going to have to fight some battle.
It is. I know we want to be proactive, but sometimes nature just makes us reactive. It is hard because you just don't know what you're going to come into that day. Again, Facebook is very helpful, but today we had a Facebook post that some pieces were broken at the Riverwalk on the river deck, the arch deck. We had some pillars gone. Again, don't know it. Found it as soon as we saw it. We fixed it. Again, wasn't on our to-do list this morning, but that was the first thing we went and did. Tree comes down. Again, we don't plan for those things. If it's down, we're out. We need to get it safe for everybody. It might not get all cleaned up, but we want it safe. And then it's the constant, checking the playground, make sure it's safe, doing the small ins and outs. I don't typically play on the playgrounds, but I walk the playground because I want to make sure if it's going to hold me, it's going to hold my kid, because that's my priority is, my kid and every other kid and adult within the city. We want these things to be used for generations, and we want it to be used by generational people. So maintenance it's fun because it is different every day.
And you guys also then have to pick up a lot of trash throughout the city parks, and especially in the summertime when people are out more active. And I'll be out on the river walk early in the morning. I like to get out when the sun's just coming up. I always see in the summertime, one of the city trucks with a couple kids in it usually, those kind of summer help, I assume. and they're out there emptying trash cans and cleaning up, other people's trash that they may have dropped along the way. But you guys are at it all the time. And I mean, it's never perfect, but
Nope.
you guys do an amazing job of keeping things in running order for all of our parks.
I appreciate that, because that's one of my personal takes on for a park is I want it to be clean. Like you said, it's never perfect. As soon as a wind picks up, there's going to be something else.
Yep.
But at least for myself, I am very visual. So if I walk into a bathroom, I'm looking at the floor first. I'm not going to see what else is there. If the floor is dirty, it's dirty. It might be the cleanest stall anywhere, but if that floor is dirty, it's dirty to me. If there's trash all over a park, the park is dirty. And so part of that stigma, again, if parks aren't clean anymore, has been really one that I just want rounds. I want them every day. We might not get every place every day, but we are looking without the week, looking for stuff that we need to pick up. And there's a lot of people that pick up for us too. I mean, again, that's where the community comes in. They're picking up and they're putting them in the trash cans, and they're, again, letting us know if there's those issues as well.
I assume like you said earlier about those broken pickets on the fence at the river deck. I'm assuming that you're tied in with the city. I know the city put together a website where you could report problems, whether that's roads or street signs, or I'm assuming that also some of the park, if somebody found broken equipment, they could go through that website as well.
I think so. I don't know the website that well, and honestly, I don't do Facebook. I'm a person that takes everything very personally, so I don't even communicate with my family. I don't post anything, but when there is a post, typically somebody will find it and let me know. But there are ways to let us know if there's ever any issues. Call City Hall, email me. Our contacts are on the website at least, but I know there is a work order kind of app that they can submit. I don't know. I think they must maybe just go to the Maria.
Yes.
And then she just lets us know, because she has let me know sometimes that, hey, there might be an issue. I always just thought it was Facebook.
Yeah. No, there is a update to the website that's happened in probably the last year.
Okay.
That I think I've actually used it a couple of times. It works really, really well.
Okay, good.
And very responsive. So, Adam, I really appreciate you coming into the studio and sharing with our guest all these little nuggets about the history of the city park or the Roundhouse and all the things that happened down at Paradise Spring. And to know that you have that double perspective of outdoor green space, but also the history and the appreciation you must have for our parks because of that. It really means a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciated it. I like to share the history, and then we can do this again on a nice summer night if you want, and be outside.
All right. If our listeners have any questions at all, again, Adam mentioned on the city website, his contact information is on there, and we will put a link in the show notes for Wabash City, and also one to the parks page specifically, because on there you can also find trail maps, park maps, and some of the amenities that are available. So check that out if you have any other questions. Like some of the programs and some of the parks that we talked about, it's the generosity of this community has made the parks possible and also made this podcast possible. Generosity from people like the Gilman Investment Fund, the Sandra Kunkel Trust, Mark and Amy Ford, Paperworks Industries, the City of Wabash, the Community Foundation of Wabash County, and Visit Wabash County. This is a production of Destination Wabash County. And until next time, I'm Adam Stakeman, and this is ThriveIN Wabash County.